Today is Monday, September 1st, 2025. This is First Alert Weather Plus. Meteorologist Nicholas Snyder here. Happy Labor Day and happy start of meteorological fall. You may notice the graphics have a little bit of a different tint to them as we are going to be starting with our fall-like weather. It has been bone dry out there. This is what we're talking about. When is the next rain chance? Everybody wants to know when that's headed our way. We've got the answer for you right there. We are remaining cooler as well. We'll explain why that is, and of course, we'll take a look at that long-term forecast and give you an idea of what that forecast is looking like. Like I said, it's been bone dry out there. In fact, for some of us, it's been a flash drought. Last time Huntington saw measurable rain was 0.03 of an inch of rain, August 20th, 25. The last time they saw a 1/10 of an inch or more of rain occurred on August 14th. It's been a very, very long time. Over 15 days since Huntington has seen over a 1/10 of an inch of rain, or at least a 1/10 of an inch of rain. Charleston, meanwhile, hasn't seen measurable rain in well over 2 weeks. Back on August 14th, they got 0.13 of an inch of rain. So, yes, it has been very, very dry all around the region. For that reason, we've been in drought conditions. Now, the only one spot that is seeing at least moderate drought conditions will be over parts of eastern Kentucky, but the yellow that you're seeing right here would indicate abnormally dry conditions, and that says it the least. We have been dealing with those abnormally dry conditions over much of the region, and it has been a real struggle for a lot of us over much of the region as well. In fact, a couple of burn bans have been put in place, and meteorologist Hannah Hayes has a look at what those burn bans mean and what you can do about it and what we stand as far as those drought conditions go here right now.
Over the past few weeks, we have had really nice temperatures overall, but we've also been relatively dry, and this has caused a couple of counties in our region to be under a burn ban. By definition, a burn ban is a temporary legal restriction on outdoor burning that will help prevent wildfires or improve air quality. A burn ban is issued when there's an increased chance of fires to be spread, and this is caused by the dry conditions like what we've been seeing lately, preventing anyone from open burning until the burn ban is lifted. After there's enough rainfall to lift the ban and allow burning again, people can burn freely. Now let's look across the region, because there's only 2 counties so far with a current burn ban issued, those counties being Boyd County and Lewis County. Though burning isn't really advised at this time across any county in the viewing area, and this is why. As shown on this map, there is a low-level drought for almost every single county in our region. Due to the lack of rainfall and moisture we've had in the past few weeks, the drought is in place for most of our counties. During dry times like this, the lack of rainfall can make outdoor burning very dangerous, even if you're not under a burn ban. But luckily, there are several days worth of rain chances on the 7-day forecast this week. Not to say that you'll see rain every day, but we are expecting multiple days where there is a chance for you to see rain over the next few days. Most of the rain is expected to come in the afternoon and evening hours, and while rain overnight into Wednesday is expected as well. These are some of the higher rain chances we've seen in the past few weeks, so we'll just have to keep an eye on it and see if all of this rain that we're expecting is enough to lift the 2 burn bans and the low-level drought that we're under across the region.
Yeah, and as Hannah mentioned, we have been seeing not a whole lot of rain, but those rain chances will be beginning to move back into the area, and we will definitely take that because it is something that we desperately need. So let's talk about it. We have this little system that'll be trying to make its way on in from Tuesday into Wednesday. It's a little kink in the jet stream here, but of course there is a little diverging air out of this, air going this way, air going that way, so some upward motion could be a possibility in this general area come Wednesday morning. I'll take this little kind of note off here and we'll move this in forward here to kind of show you what exactly I'm talking about with what we could be expecting for first starters on Wednesday. Here's that system. Again, this little kink in the white lines. We call those isohypses. That little kink is what we know as a shortwave trough. Lots of upward motion, diverging air out ahead of that system, and that's kind of what we're watching heading into Wednesday morning. But there's a more powerful system back to the north here. That'll be Wednesday morning. Again, this is what's headed our way for Thursday. And more of this widespread activity is to be expected from this secondary system as we head into Thursday. You'll watch how quickly this thing gets here. As we move forward here, let's pause on Thursday. Again, there's that more powerful system. Lots of diverging air coming out of this right into here. Rising motion over our area, and just enough moisture coming in from the Gulf of Mexico to lift into precipitation that is headed our way for Thursday. So finally, some widespread soaking rain that we desperately need coming out of this cold front right here. Let's take a look at the surface. Two low pressures going to kind of join forces. Now, the first area of low pressure could bring us a little bit of rain on Tuesday even for parts of eastern Kentucky. A lot of West Virginia and southern Ohio, though, will stay dry. But once these join forces, Wednesday night into Thursday, we'll see this cold front work its way on through, and it'll develop some more rainier conditions as well as cooler conditions behind that front over much of the region going into the end of the week. So let's take a closer look at this. Again, this is our American model, the GFS model. It's a little bit more aggressive on the moisture here, but when both models are agreeing on a good widespread rain Wednesday into Thursday, you know there's a pretty good chance of us seeing some good, decent precipitation working on it. That's the American model showing that widespread rain again Wednesday into Thursday. Then by Thursday night, a lot of that activity clearing out. Here's the European model. This one typically has a better handle on things, or at least it has had a better handle on things over the last couple of weeks or so. So let's take a look at this. A little less aggressive on Wednesday's rain, but it's still there. So there is a chance of rain on Wednesday. I don't think it's going to be quite as high as Thursday's chance of rain. That actual cold front here, though, gets here on Thursday, and you'll notice that widespread soaking rain. The cold front, by the way, will slow down once it gets here. It's going to take its time getting through. So on and off rain showers are to be expected really from late Thursday morning all the way until Thursday evening. And once that sun goes down, we'll lose some of the energy for those showers and thunderstorms over the day on Thursday. But name of the game is a lot of the region is going to see this rain. Now, again, back to the American model. I don't think this is going to verify totally. This little yellow dagger right here where you're seeing an inch or two of rain, it's a little aggressive for my liking. Perhaps there could be pockets of an inch or more of rain, but if you see that, we're dealing with flooding. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the European model ultimately has a better handle on this, and this is the perfect amount of rain that we need. Not too much to where we're going to see flooding, and just enough to where it's going to be beneficial over the area. A good widespread half an inch of rain to an inch and a half of rain for a lot of us. And sure, there could be pockets of an inch and a half or more, but the vast majority of us will see those beneficial rains for much of the day on Thursday. Bit of a break on Friday, so if you're looking to get to Rib Fest, you should be A-OK and good to go by Friday. In case you are a little upset by Thursday's weather that could be headed our way. All right, I've got to look at your zone-by-zone forecast for your day tomorrow. Let's take a look at that zone-by-zone forecast. Tomorrow, not really looking too bad here once again. We're totally dry southern Ohio, back into the lower and middle 80s. South-southwest wind 0 to 5 miles an hour. Should be a great day if you do have anything planned outside, especially in the evening time frame as everyone's getting home from work or school after a long weekend. Here we go. Eastern Kentucky, a few showers and storms could be a possibility, especially Salyerville, West Liberty, Paintsville, Prestonsburg, Pikeville, mainly generally south into the coal fields, but also areas further to the west out toward Moorhead, maybe up toward the Vanceburg area as well. Think the further east you are, the better chance you are at staying dry. Temperatures back into the mid 80s for you here as well. Southern West Virginia, we're back into the upper 70s and lower 80s here. Partly cloudy skies, dry conditions. Pretty calm winds at 0 to 5 miles an hour. And central and eastern West Virginia, we're at 81 in Charleston and 83 in Huntington here. Generally 80s speaking around the area, a few 70s up in the mountains where the elevation is a little bit higher. South-southwest wind 0 to 5 miles an hour. A terrific Tuesday of weather is to be expected. Just watch for those isolated storms further to the west in eastern Kentucky. Yeah, so those rain chances do kind of start once we head into tomorrow, and then they incrementally increase. Again, better chances of seeing some drier weather if you are looking for outdoor plans tomorrow. Wednesday, some of us will stay dry. Everyone gets some rain on Thursday, but looks like Friday we have totally dry conditions. So again, Rib Fest should be better on Friday in comparison to Thursday, where we could see that rain. Shifting gears now, the tropics. We are watching very closely a wave coming off of Africa right now. This would be something that would be close having to watch, especially with the kind of waters and the kind of environment that is out ahead of this system as it's moving forward. So let's talk about it. Again, there's lack of wind over the Atlantic Ocean. And you notice there's that wave kind of working its way on through, but this general area is devoid of a lot of wind. We don't want a lot of wind. Hurricanes don't like that. We also don't want this high pressure. We do have this high pressure that's supplying some very dry air, but right in the red circle is where the air is humid enough to support some tropical development, as well as the winds being calm enough to really not have a lot of wind shear or change of wind speed with height to really drive the potential of some tearing apart of some of this tropical activity, if you will. So that wave off of Africa we are watching very closely. It's heading into a favorable environment as well as far as the water temperatures are concerned, out into the 80s over much of the equatorial Atlantic. And as we move further to the west into the Caribbean and into the Gulf, even warmer water temperatures are over here. So it's something we're going to have to watch. Now, the good news is there isn't really anything officially developed just yet, but the National Hurricane Center has its eyes on it, a moderate chance of development over the next few days. So, again, we're watching it fairly closely, and if it does come true, it'll be something for Puerto Rico, for areas like the Dominican Republic, Hispaniola, the other side of the Dominican Republic, of course, Haiti, that general area to watch as it moves forward. Hopefully, we could get enough wind speed to kind of tear that apart as it moves further and further to the west. But again, it is something we will have to watch rather closely over much of the region. Tony has a lot more details on what we can expect from the rest of tropical season here and what he's seen compared to years past.
If you can humor me for a second, I'd like to tell you a little story from my high school history class, Father Stafford at Father Judge High, and I was doing a paper on mercantilism. It was the transport of goods from the old world to the new world in order to make profit. Think of the old world being, of course, paved by Columbus and the sailors who came across during the 1490s. Columbus on the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. And then through the 1600s, and especially as you got into the 17 and 1800s, the transport of goods was going hot and heavy. Mercantilism referring to the transport of those goods from the old world to the new world to make money, to bring back to, for example, Spain and England. Now, those mariners, those ancient mariners, encountered hurricanes over the ocean from time to time. They came up with the slogan that during the month of June, it's too soon. July, you stand by. August, be on your guard for a September to remember for hurricanes. So let's test that out here as we get into the first week of September. I'm taping on Friday night. There was a swirl in the North Atlantic heading past Newfoundland, and heading past Greenland and heading up toward the Flemish Cap and eventually Iceland, non-tropical in nature. And it's no wonder if you look out over the vast hundreds of thousands of square miles of the Atlantic Ocean, not a lot going on except for a lot of dry air, whether it be salt or dust coming from the Saharan desert or just plain high pressure that's mashing the air and making for crystal blue skies. The Bermuda High has two centers, one near Bermuda, the second one's near the Azores, which is close to Africa, and in tandem they encompass the Bermuda Azores high pressure. And these high pressures help to steer weather patterns from Africa toward our area. And in fact, we talked a couple weeks ago about the intertropical convergence zone where the air is rising. Convergence going on from south of the equator and north of the equator, allowing for rising air. Rising air means clouds, and clouds eventually mean rain and thunderstorms. And sometimes those thunderstorms can get swirls. And when that happens, they're driven by the trade winds coming from Africa toward North America, Central America, and those trade winds oftentimes are the ones that start to brew up some showers and storms that can turn into tropical storms. So on the underbelly of the high pressure, we've got the Gulf, the Caribbean, and the Atlantic. And this is probably going to be the favorite hurricane zone as we get into the middle of September and October, the heart of hurricane season, coming from the West Indies, from the Leeward and the Windward Islands, through the Caribbean, and up into the Gulf of Mexico. So let's watch the Atlantic to be relatively quiet at the expense of maybe a couple of major storms coming through the southern flank of the Caribbean Sea. Okay, we've already had storms that have stacked up all the way down to Fernand. Obviously, Aaron's the one that kicked up the ocean. Chantal, back in July, is the one that flooded the Research Triangle. And sadly, it was Barry's remnants, weak though he was, that helped to spawn the violent flash flooding in Texas. Scan the hurricane names for the rest of the season. Gabrielle, Umberto, Imelda, Jerry, Karen, and Lorenzo likely to be christened. We're kind of lagging behind now, so I'm a little skeptical we'll get much past Melissa and Nestor as we get to the end of the tropical storm and hurricane season. For this first full week of September, warm air is going to be choked away in time. High pressure will be building down. It will be a high pressure that eventually brings the chilliest weather of the season so far. And out ahead of that, there will be a slurp of moisture coming from the south. So let me re-rack and note how cool air to the north that turns chilly and warm, humid air along the Gulf of Mexico, where it rained off and on during the Labor Day weekend. That moisture will be siphoned northward, intercept the approaching cold front, and that's why rain would be in the forecast the second half of this first week of September. And behind it, I would expect the chilliest temperatures of the season so far. So already we've had at least one night where we threatened records in the 40s. Let's see if we actually have some 30s degree temperatures in the mountains by the time we get to the end of this next cycle, whether it be coming up the second weekend, the first full weekend of September and beyond, because chilly high pressure will be building down. And with that comes a trend toward cooler than normal temperatures. I'll stop as far as saying frost is going to occur. However, don't be surprised if the upper Great Lakes region winds up with their first credible frost of the season. Frosts are important this year for farmers in the Souda bottomlands who didn't get their corn and soybeans put in until the 4th of July. Using the 90-day cycle for the germination and the crops to flourish, expectations are any early frost could put a damper on the growing season in the Scioto Valley. But for now, we do expect some much needed rain for the second half of the week. The amount of rain to be determined here from the WSAZ Weather Lab. And that's my very latest here on First Alert Plus with Nicholas Snyder.
Thank you there, Tony. And yeah, it has been a very stubborn pattern, to say the least, but it's a cooler than normal pattern, and thank goodness we're not seeing those excessively hot temperatures anymore. In fact, let's talk about that pattern. Here is our water vapor satellite. This is the famous imagery I love to show all the time. And yeah, big old dip in the jet stream overhead right now, and that's why we're seeing those cooler than normal temperatures. Meanwhile, that next system back off to the west right over here, that's moving its way further down, and that's what's going to cause us all the cooler conditions once we head into the weekend here and give us another shot of fall-like weather that we desperately, desperately love and need, and of course give us that rain that we desperately need overhead as well. Let's talk about what else is going on in our atmosphere. Again, this is beyond Thursday now. Notice we get another little shot of some cooler air with another system that could be working its way on in for the day Sunday into Monday, right in here, this little wiggle in the jet stream that you'll see as I'll highlight right in here, kind of moving on in for Sunday, also one right here. Now, this one that's further to the east that I showed you, I'll take everything off and I'll kind of highlight just the one that I wanted to show you. Right up here, maybe could bring a rain chance to parts of the area as we head into Sunday. That would be mainly up toward the northern areas where most of that energy is. We'll have to watch what this thing does right here, this next little system, though it doesn't appear to be too impactful because there's such strong convergence of air back to the west on the backside of this feature, and I'll highlight that for you right here. You'll notice where these white lines kind of come close together. Wind kind of moving in here, coming in here, generates a really strong area of high pressure at the surface. So high pressure means fair weather friend, dry, friendly conditions overhead. Don't think the next system after the one coming on Sunday should do a whole lot over much of the region, but we'll have to take a look more in depth as we head into next week. It does look a little bit drier in comparison to where we have been over the last few days. So let's talk about it. Again, here's those air masses really giving us that initial shot of Thursday coolness, and then look what happens on Sunday. I want you to notice back off to the north and west, right in here, as I'll highlight for you right here, up toward Winnipeg, Canada. This is going to advance further to the south and east as we head into the weekend. and give us that really nice shot of fall-like air that we are really, really looking forward to as we head into Sunday and Monday. Those are almost October-like temperatures, by the way, so some of us may be seeing some frost, especially up in the higher elevation terrain. I don't think much of us in the lowlands are going to get much in the way of frost. And by the way, there's that area of high pressure that I was talking about earlier off to the west, so again, looking fairly dry over much of the second half of next week compared to what we're seeing this week in terms of the rain chances that will be on the increase here. So temperatures remaining below average. That's kind of the story here, nudging more and more below average. Today we're actually going to be right at average, but we're going to fall below average tomorrow, and then by Thursday, 10 degrees below average, thanks to that cold front that will be moving its way on through. Long-term pattern time, as we always look at on First Alert Weather Plus. Here's that nudge of cold air coming on down right here, coming out of the poles. And we can thank this warm air up here in Alaska for pushing this further down into our part. Notice how the polar vortex, though, remains strong over much of the North Pole. So as long as that remains strong, a lot of our cool downs aren't going to be exceptionally cool here. We typically don't get to see that until much later on. Now, we will get an advance of some warmer air that's in the North Atlantic. We call this the North Atlantic Oscillation going negative, which means we're going to see a split of some of that cooler air. And again, that would be Saturday into Sunday coming on down. And that would, of course, make it feel a lot cooler compared to where we've been at over the last couple of weeks here for much of the weekend. So the polar vortex starting to split up, show signs of weakness as we head into the weekend. And you'll see Greenland kind of continuing to warm up. So we'll start to see maybe a southern trend of some cooler air into parts of Europe and Asia. And much of the warmer air staying over the western United States here, where they're really going to surge up those temperatures and keep it warm for the time being. Let's take a closer look. Again, the first shot of cool air coming on Thursday, and then that NAO goes negative. So by Sunday into Monday, we see much cooler air begin to work its way on in, and maybe a moderation out of those temperatures once we head toward the middle and end of next week, but remaining fairly average, or at least a little below average, over the next really week or so. 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. Of course, this would be from Sunday through next Thursday, and we remain below average temperature-wise, slightly below average, but still fairly below average. Unfortunately, while we will see that widespread soaking rain on Thursday and parts of us on Wednesday, it doesn't appear to be lasting too long. We are in a drier than normal pattern, which means, yeah, we'll still have to watch out for drought concerns over the next couple of weeks or so. But at least in the short term, there appears to be some relief headed our way. Here's that super 7-day forecast we always like to show you here. I'll take myself off the screen. And, of course, yes, Tuesday, rain chances are going to be low, but they're isolated. Eastern Kentucky has probably the best chance at seeing some isolated activity. Most of the precipitation lies west of the Big Sandy River. Bit more rain chances as we head into Wednesday, and then Thursday is that best chance of seeing that widespread rain coming along that cold front during mainly the afternoon time frame and into the evening time frame. A bit of a break from that on Friday. Some more activity as we head into Saturday thanks to that second reinforcing cold front coming on Saturday night. Meanwhile, Sunday's highs kick off for the NFL season, by the way, looking fantastic. It's feeling very, very nice out there. Temperatures middle and upper 70s. We're seeing sunshine, maybe a few showers further to the north. But overall, it's feeling like football weather for much of the region here and looking just amazing in terms of that weather. This is First Alert Weather Plus. We air every Monday, 6:45-ish p.m., give you the latest on what you need to know in terms of that weather. We always give you that first alert for what you need. Of course, if you want to follow us on Facebook, do so. I'm meteorologist Nicholas Snyder on Facebook. Hannah is meteorologist Hannah Hayes. Tony is Tony Cavalier, and Dylan is Dylan Goday Weather. You can find us on YouTube as well. We do the weekly Weather Lab on our First Alert Weather Plus YouTube channel. Just find WSAZ First Alert Weather Plus, and we're right there. Be sure to stay up to date on that. We got a good experiment for you coming up, and we've got more exclusive content coming to that YouTube channel as well in the future. So keep updated on that. In the meantime, if you are watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. If you're watching on the WSAZ.com app or WSAZ.com or the Roku channel or anything like that, be sure to tune in every week or maybe find us on YouTube to get a reminder that it's coming on every week at 6:45-ish p.m. In the meantime, I'm meteorologist Nicholas Snyder. Make it a great Monday.